I only drink the blood of my enemies. And occasionally a strawberry yoo-hoo. What's up, guys? It's a beautiful day. I mean, it's kind of stormy. A little bit. It's going to be stormy here. It's overcast. But you know what? Regardless, it's a beautiful day. I'm a happy, happy guy. I woke up this morning and I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. There's nothing really, like, exciting out there happening right now. It's all, like, just the same thing over and over and over again. You know? And then Elon Musk goes and does it. He does it. I actually fantasized about this kind of thing. I was like, man, I wish I want to be so rich that I could just buy Twitter. I could buy Twitter and I could set the people free. Let my people go. You know? And what happens? Elon Musk buys Twitter. He uses his billions to buy Twitter. This dude's majority stock shareholder. Effectively making Twitter his. Like I'm giddy. I'm giddy. I did not expect this. I kind of expected something like this to happen, but I expected more Musk to kind of create his own platform, which I love Elon Musk, but even if he did create his own platform, I'm not exactly sure if that would have actually done much, because so many people have tried it, right? They're like, well, we got a Twitter alternative, and they never stuck. The thing is that there are sometimes these places, these companies are too big, and if people are already settled in one location, dislodging them from it is way too complicated in order to try to get your own thing started up. But here comes Elon Musk, who is wildly intelligent. By the way, fair warning, I'm an Elon Musk stan. Just so you guys know. I am highly complimented. I love this guy. But he goes and he's like, you know, it's going to be too complicated. Probably starting up my own service. Probably shouldn't do that. I'm just going to buy Twitter. Oh my God. It's like it's a dream come true. It's a dream come true. What's up, everybody? What's up, Brady Crippen? By the way, Brady, you don't drink coffee. You kind of like the cold drinks. Lately, I have gotten really hardcore into Celsius. I don't know if it's like an energy drink soda. Comes in a tall can. Apparently, like all natural flavors, yada yada yada. It's really good. I've been drinking that. I actually had to stop because it was keeping me up at night. But it's just if you like drinks that kind of wake you up, Celsius is the way to go in my opinion. So far, I haven't tried G Fuel yet. I would love to try G Fuel. Apparently, I can go down to Micro Center and get some. I might end up doing that. What's up, Sister Told You? What's up, Nintendo? What's up, McCracken? Brady, John, Susie. How's it going, guys? Good to see y'all. Good to see y'all. Welcome to this glorious day. This W of a day. We're going to get into this because I want to analyze not just what Elon Musk did, but what it could mean for the rest of us. I think that's a topic worth exploring. Because honestly, whether we like it or not, Twitter is super influential on our society. It's not real, as Dave Chappelle said, but I think there's a reason that it's not real, and we could make it more real. And I'm going to get into that. But first, for those of you who do not know what happened, I woke up this Monday morning. There I was. I actually woke up a little late. I don't know why. I slept in a little bit. And I woke up this morning, and I could not, the weather, when it gets like this, you just kind of have a hard time waking up. Forced myself up, and I'm sitting there like, what am I going to talk about today? Because I know that nothing like super big happened over the weekend. I'm just kind of like, could I get away with like streaming Escape from Tarkov? I don't know. And then I look, and Elon Musk apparently has bought majority shares of Twitter, over 9%. For those of you who are confused, Jack Dorsey owns a little over 2%. Which makes Elon Musk effectively the owner, or at least majority owner, of Twitter. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk more about it. Let's go ahead and dive in here. And maybe if we have the time, we'll talk about some other things too. I love Stream Beats. Cancel Twitter. I don't know if... See, here's the thing, though. Twitter, let's, because okay. So people were saying, hey, Elon Musk should buy Twitter and then completely delete it. Just destroy Twitter. And I was like, I don't know. At first, I was like, that might be a good idea because, all of society would probably benefit from something like that. But then I thought somebody else would just come along. Somebody else would just come along and create something. And with the help of all the elites and whatnot, it would become the next Twitter. You'd cut off this head and then like 2 more would probably grow back in its place. You're not just going to get rid of Twitter, at least as far as I'm concerned. I think the smart move, like I say, when it comes to many things, many of these corporations aren't just going to go away. Disney, Facebook, pretty much any big major corporation, Nike, all these corporations that went completely woke. They're not just going to disappear. The best thing to do is, instead of trying to wipe them out, is to try to infiltrate and exert influence within and try to bring these companies back to a center. Because just scorched earth, it's too big. There's too much earth to scorch. But here Elon Musk is, and he pretty much did exactly what needed to happen. Somebody needed to come in and overtake Twitter, right? And he did it. And this is like, he's one of the few people that I would actually trust to do it. So I don't think canceling Twitter is the best thing to do at this point. I think that doing exactly what Elon Musk did was best case scenario. Also, if he started his own service, the media would have done everything to shut it down, fight it, etc. What are they going to do? Exactly. Not going to lie, I don't like Tarkov, but the looks on people's messages here would have been worth it. It would have been me talking. I would have done that, and then like as I would make commentary about Ukraine. Oh, never mind. It's horrible. Never mind. No, I didn't say that. Delete the VOD. I wonder how many SJWs will leave Twitter now. I thought about that too, Kraken. Because the cool thing about an open conversation and open dialogue is that much of the radical left, which controls Twitter, much of the radical left and their points and conversation topics and stuff like that, their arguments, their debate points, can only exist in a vacuum. Because the moment that any kind of substantive debate is introduced, their points completely evaporate. They're done. They're destroyed. They have to live in a bubble. And Twitter is a bubble that they're trying to force everyone else to live inside. Okay? So if they no longer have the protection of that bubble, of those overseers trying to curate the conversation, then I imagine that many of the radical leftists are going to say, I'm just out. I'm out. I can't do this anymore. Twitter has become so radical to the right. Twitter has become a place of misinformation. Twitter has become a place of evil and Nazis and yada, yada, yada. And they'll depart, to which I say, peace! I don't care. Go. You people are poison to society. I would much rather have two people arguing with some of the most slanderous language you have ever seen than have one more freaking tweet go up from these radical left blue checks trying to push real denial of science as fact. It drives me crazy. I would much rather return to a Wild West form of Twitter than have this nonsense dominate the platform. I'm not saying that this is where Musk is going to take us, but if we could just go back a little bit there, we would probably have a much better society overall. I'll get to that in a second, though. Also, Musk watches Red State Live BML confirmed. God, I would love that. Elon Musk, if you are watching, if you are watching, just leave a little comment or tweet it out. Tweet it out that you're watching so that people can come in here and I can discuss your victory here. Okay. It never hurts to ask. Elon Musk makes a huge move buying up billions in Twitter stock. Let's dive into this. This is from my good buddy Thomas LeDuc, who I've known for a very long time. And he got to it super fast. I couldn't get to it in time. But you know what? I actually wrote something else about it because I'm glad he did. This needed to be said right away. Man, oh man, did Elon Musk, and he's a fabulous writer, as you're about to see. Man, oh man, did Elon Musk do a fabulous head fake on the world last month when he indicated to his almost 80 million followers on Twitter that he was interested in possibly creating a social media platform that was focused on free speech. Everyone thought he was looking into spending his billions on creating a platform from scratch. Wait, out of curiosity, I'm actually curious. Jack Dorsey owns over about 2%. How many followers does Jack Dorsey have? 6.2. He has 6.2 followers. Elon Musk has 80. Is that true? Elon Musk. $80 million. Oh my God, dude. Yes. Dude, Elon Musk is he's such a Chad. Oh, hi. Ladies and gentlemen, the owner of Twitter. Oh, hi. LOL. Oh, he's such a Chad. Okay. Everyone thought he was looking into spending his billions on creating a platform from scratch. Nice move, Elon. According to news reports, he just went ahead and bought a massive chunk of Twitter from the BBC. Elon Musk has taken a 9.2 stake in Twitter, according to a U.S. securities filing. The news sent Twitter shares soaring about 25% in pre-market trading. I woke up this morning. This is the other thing I saw. My stocks were going nuts. They were like, hey, 25% increase on your Twitter stock, Brandon. Yeah, I have stock in Twitter. Sue me. And I was like, what the hell? Why would that happen? Oh, I mean, I'm happy, but God dang. That's why. From the BBC. Oh, I already read that. Musk is a regular Twitter user with more than 80 million followers, although recently he said he is giving, quote, serious thought to building a new social media platform. Late last month, Musk asked his followers whether they thought the social media platform encouraged free speech. So he released a little poll on Twitter, and he said, given that Twitter serves as the de facto public town square, failing to adhere to free speech principles fundamentally undermines democracy. What should be done? So this was he started to cause a little bit of a rumbling here. And he had this poll: free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? The vast majority of people said no. 70.4% versus 29.6%. And he said the consequences of this poll will be important. Please vote carefully. So people thought, because of, these tweets right here, that he was going to create his own platform, which, cool, I would have signed up for it, naturally. But I'm not exactly sure if it would have moved the needle much. I'm not sure if it would have actually been a really strong competitor. I get it's Elon Musk, but I mean, still, once something is this big, it's hard to dislodge people or make them focus on something else, unless it's like really, really, really good. Do I think that he could have built something really, really, really? Yeah. But it still would have been a big, long uphill climb. But obviously he had the better idea, in my opinion. So he had this thing go up and people started speculating. Now, I'm not a brain surgeon, but when you purchase almost 10% of anything and spend close to $3 billion doing it, I think that makes you a player in said venture overnight. Musk has not kept it secret that he is not a fan of how the big social media platforms have handled oppressing views that the brass at those companies does not like. He is one of the rare people that have both a massive social media following and also the money to do something about it. As my colleague, me, covered here last month, Musk is not a fan of woke corporate culture, and Twitter is a crud pool of that. And I wrote, Elon Musk has made it clear that when it comes to, by the way, everything that I'm reading is on redstate.com right now. Go to redstate.com. You can follow along with me. This is up on the front page. And also like the stream. If you haven't already, give that stream a like. This one, give this stream a like. It helps with the algorithm. It makes us look good. Elon Musk has made it clear that when it comes to woke culture, he has no time or patience for it. To be sure, social justice advocacy is effectively a business holding itself back in many ways in order to please a political fad of the time. Get woke, go broke. At this point in time, it should be written down in the best practices handbook. Get woke, go broke. Your company suffers the moment that you engage in radical leftist politics. I have known one company to actually succeed from going woke, and that was Nike when they endorsed Colin Kaepernick, and that was back in Colin Kaepernick's heyday. I don't know if they could get away with it now. I think that he was a fad at the time, and now Colin Kaepernick has exposed himself as the complete douche canoe that he actually is, and as such, people, not even the NFL wants to touch him anymore. One thing Musk seems to have a very real aversion to is the environmental, social, and governance standards, which are effectively a leftist activist wish list for corporations to check off so activist investors know who to put their money into. Not following these standards may wind up with your corporation being targeted by activists and a lot of bad PR. True to form for leftist activists, however, they've jumped on the bandwagon of wanting war with Russia in order to protect Ukraine, and as such, ESG funds are now being directed towards defense companies who make weapons that fight hostile regimes, according to entrepreneur Mac Andreessen. Duke says he also is willing to take a hit personally if it will help the current economic situation, as I wrote up here a couple of weeks ago, with Elon Musk puts country before profit in a new tweet that will upset Democrats. Obviously, Musk has decided it would be easier to influence a company that already exists and on which he also has a big following, rather than start a brand new one from scratch. This clearly is why he is as successful as he has been. This guy knows how to maneuver and strike a great deal. This actually is the move that I thought Trump would do after he left the White House in 2021, putting together with some investors and buying stakes in the company that had banned him and others who supported him in terms of service rules that nobody understands. Violating the mythical terms of service has silenced many on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. That is so true, and I'm going to get into that here in a second. The terms of service on Twitter are nebulous. They try to make it seem like they are 100% transparent and easy to understand, but as I'm about to show you guys, this is nonsense. It really is getting hot as hell in here. It really is nothing short of opinion. Why people think that they should, or why when people get banned, it is based off of opinion. I'm going to get really hard into that. With Elon's history of being successful with anything he touches, the sky's the limit for Twitter. And maybe they'll drop their fascist mentality about trying to stifle anything that hurts their feelings. Let's hope this works. Let's hope it works, man. Excellent article, Duke. This move completely took me by surprise. But now looking back on it, I'm not surprised at all. I really do think that Musk knows what he's doing when he does things. Like he is, for all intents and purposes, a brilliant man. And I could say that even if I didn't like him. He's a brilliant man. This move to buy up Twitter is, for one, a good business decision for him since he's wanting to have a platform, a free speech platform. Buying up Twitter is the best way to do it. But he took a personal hit in doing it, and I think that's really a testament to him. I don't think that Twitter actually can make him too much of a profit. He's literally doing this because he's trying to restore sanity to our society. He's trying to restore debate, free speech, openness, which says a lot about the guy. And I am 100% on board with this. I am so happy. Of all the people who could have bought, I'm happy it was Musk necessarily and not Trump. And I don't mean to say that Trump would have been a horrible overlord. I don't know. But I know Musk seems to be very libertarian when it comes to these things, and that's what I would want. A libertarian who understands internet culture. No one understands internet culture that is that rich like Elon Musk does. That's just the God's honest truth. You look at his Twitter feed, and this dude is just, it's entertaining. It's hilarious. He posts memes. He converses with regular people. I mean, the dude likes to watch anime and talk about it, and play, he plays video games. He is built for the internet. And I love the fact that someone who understands the internet in this day and age has effectively taken it over. It's hard to sue you now that Elon just flipped the chessboard. Exactly. If his head and heart are really in the right place on this, we might just have found a new social stronghold. Well, I'm going to get into that. I want to talk about that more. Elon Musk, I was a little hyperbolic. Elon Musk could save society from those looking to control it. And this is I sat down and I thought about it for a minute. And I was like, man, this is a much bigger deal than we're probably understanding that it is. I'm just going to go ahead and dive into this. Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk hasn't even done anything with it yet. But after effectively becoming the largest shareholder on Twitter, a lot of doors that were locked shut suddenly flew open. As Thomas LeDuc covered early Monday, Musk took his status as the richest man in the world and used his wealth to purchase up a massive chunk of shares to one of the most influential and yet diseased social media platforms in the West. He obtained 9.2% of the company, in fact, and the resulting control shift sent Twitter's stock skyrocketing like a SpaceX rocket, a whopping 25%. The move had been teased with Musk making the statement that free speech is essential to a functioning democracy, followed by questions about what should be done about Twitter, the, quote, de facto public town square. Musk, as he tends to do, made a move that changes everything not long after. Just prove, like, that little thing right there. He understands what it takes for a society to function correctly. Because if you actually look around, Twitter has helped, Twitter, Facebook, all these big tech companies have helped create sacred cows that we cannot question. If you do question it, you get kicked off a platform. And it's sad. Because a lot of these things that we can't talk about are literally, directly science related, fact related. We can't discuss actual truth. It's scary to think about, but it's true. We couldn't talk about anything COVID related. You could get booted for saying the wrong thing about, like, stating any real fact about COVID, transgenderism. Doesn't matter what it is. Like, you would get booted. There are still people getting booted today. The Babylon Bee, I'll talk about that in a second, is another victim. It made a joke about Rachel Levine, and Twitter effectively kicked him off and said, unless you delete this tweet, we're not letting you back on. Babylon Bee said, no, I'm not deleting this tweet. The question now is, what will Musk change and how will that change us? Firstly, we need to focus on something that another famous man once said. The comedian Dave Chappelle commented that he was being mobbed by transgender activists on Twitter after being accused of being transphobic. He commented that he didn't care because Twitter isn't a real place, and he's right. But it doesn't mean it can't be. They've helped create Jug Bidet's America. For those of you who don't know what he's talking about, Jug Bidet, we just released, on Friday, we released a video. It was a highlight from this show where I read a script that an AI bot generated after watching 1,000 hours of Joe Biden. It's there right now. Go check it out if you can. It's pretty great. If I say so myself. Horse paste is an approved medical item based on CNN not being deplatformed. Dude, you know what? By the way, CNN and Twitter, Brad, you bring up a really good point. I think that they are like way too close, and I really can't wait for CNN to effectively. CNN, by the way, also, as we discussed in the last episode of this show, is going to undergo some changes apparently. So that's going to be really interesting to see. For years, people were thrown off the platform for merely saying things that Twitter's rubbed the hard left sentiments of its hard left employees the wrong way. It became increasingly clear that Twitter's terms of service were, like the Pirates Code, more guidelines than actual rules. If someone said something that hurt the ego, the Twitter employee would somehow label the person saying it as dangerous and have them banned. One notable example, I don't know if y'all remember Carpe Donktum. He is, in my opinion, one of the more egregious examples of Twitter practicing bias. A conservative meme maker who often created hilarious and effective videos that made the left look bad and Trump look good. Donktum never actually did anything wrong, and if he broke the rules, he complied with Twitter's takedown demands. At one point, he made a hilarious video about CNN's habit of misreporting the news. Twitter told him to take it down after the creator of the original video requested it, and Donktum did. A few days later, Twitter issued him a suspension notice out of nowhere with no way to get his account back. As Jennifer Van Laar commented at the time, despite complying with every demand of Twitter and never actually breaking any rules, Donktum was tossed off the platform in 2020. He was banned for not breaking any rules, but because he was capable of doing something the left couldn't do, and that was effectively making people laugh at his political opposite. So the left, you'll often hear the phrase, the left can't meme. And it's absolutely true. I even right now, if you go on Twitter, go and look at like some of the, like they like to meme on Ted Cruz a lot because they think they're so clever. And you just see it and they're like, these are the most cringeworthy memes you've ever seen. They're not funny. They're not creative. They're not clever. They're kind of try hard a little bit. And Donktum, and I mean, the right in general is better at it, but Donktum was very good at it. And he was a pro-Trump guy, you know, he would create memes all the time that would boost Trump or just actively make fun of the left a lot. And he was effective at it. His memes would be circulated like all over the multiple platforms. Eventually, he got so successful because he made the left so mad that they tried to find a way to kick him off. He complied with everything that they ever asked him to do, but they still kicked him off. So if you're willing to kick somebody off because they're obeying the rules, then there has to be another reason that you're doing it. And one of the reasons that they're doing it is because he was effective at spreading a message. Comedy is a insanely effective way of spreading a message. Because I've said this before, I think I said this last episode, comedy is society's great disinfectant. Right? Anything that is absolutely plaguing us, any kind of like social disease that we're suffering from, you introduce comedy to it to laugh at the ridiculousness of it, the absurdity, highlight the absurdity of it, and suddenly that thing stops having so much power over society. It's pointing out that the emperor has no clothes, effectively. So Donktum was very good at that kind of thing. He was very good at making people laugh at the absurdity of the left. Whether be they conservative or independent. And that was too dangerous. Too dangerous for them. So they had him kicked off. They tried to find the slightest excuse and they kicked him off. now he couldn't effectively distribute his opinions as well as he did before. They've been doing that to all sorts of people. 2 years prior to this, in 2018, I covered how the bias of Twitter had grown out of control to the point where actual threats were being made against the children of right-wing figures. And Twitter was doing absolutely nothing about it. Meanwhile, they were suspending conservatives for merely stating that Islamic extremists were committing violence against the innocent, which they were. This was accompanied by footage from Project Veritas that showed employees admitting they were banning pro-Trump Twitter users off of the platform for simply being pro-Trump. I take the fact that I've never been suspended as proof Twitter has me shadow banned. There are tools for checking that, I think. I think that those tools, Red, aren't exactly accurate because I know I've watched as my Twitter presence, my reach would just dramatically go for no reason. It's happened to me many times before. And in fact, I've had many complaints from Twitter users that say they never see me. I actually tweet pretty regularly, but they never see me. Ever. But somebody ran a thing on my account and said, well, you're not. It says that you're not shadow banned. But I clearly am. I'm clearly shadow banned. I think that there are many accounts that are shadow banned, and it's just not popping up as being shadow banned. So I don't know. But I made this back in 2018. And I kind of want to show you guys, not because I want to toot my own horn, because I want to show you guys what was happening back then when it comes to how their bias is so out of control. So we're just going to watch this small presentation. Okay, I am so sick of Twitter and Jack Dorsey, Twitter's CEO, trying to pretend that Twitter is some kind of non-biased entity, that it's a social media platform that treats everyone equally. And I am watching it real time, demonstrably bullcrap. Any claim that they are making that they are fair to everybody, I kind of miss my old apartment. It is demonstrably false. I'm sitting here on Twitter and I see a picture of Meghan McCain crying at Senator John McCain's casket, right? That's his daughter. It's a very sad time. And some dude had photoshopped in a picture pointing a gun at Meghan McCain with the text saying, "This is for you, America." Now, I know for a fact that this photo got reported. I don't know if y'all remember that. So, after John McCain died, there was that famous picture going around of Meghan McCain crying at his casket. Some dude decided to Photoshop like him, it wasn't him, but, holding a gun, and like I said, "This is for you, America." So, that picture stood up there on Twitter for days before finally big names had to get involved and openly complain about Twitter keeping it up. And we know for a fact that something like that would have been reported to Twitter over and over and over again. And it directly violates Twitter's terms of service. But Twitter still did nothing. Back to earlier this week, when some jackhole decided that he was going to threaten Dana Lash's children, Dana Lash being the spokeswoman for the NRA. Now, some guy decides to tweet out, "The only way these people learn is if it affects them directly. So if Dana Lash has to have her children murdered before she'll understand, I guess that's what needs to happen." So that was another great example. Somebody literally, I want to say, threatened Dana Lash's children because of her pro-gun stance, and no one did anything. I'm just gonna let me continue. Cut and dry, right? It's directly a threat. It is a threat to Dana Lash's children. Twitter for 48 hours does nothing. Nothing happens until Dana goes public with it and starts complaining in public that this tweet is still circulating despite the fact that Twitter has hard and fast rules against this kind of thing. And it gets totally worse, okay? Her husband, Chris, files a complaint with Twitter. Twitter actually goes over the tweet themselves and comes back with this nonsense. Twitter says, "Hello, thank you." I've gotten this back before, too. Whenever I've complained about a Twitter account that crossed the line, it could be because they decided to dox somebody or actually threaten violence against somebody. And I've gotten this one back. Hello, thank you for your recent report. We have reviewed your report carefully and found that there was no violation of the Twitter rules against abusive behavior. So, first off, many said, well, this is a bot response. It is kind of a bot response, but it's a response. Apparently, somebody looked over this carefully and then fired this back. Carefully. Meaning that they went and looked themselves at the tweet that was sent about Dana Lash's children, effectively encouraging violence against her children, and said they looked at it carefully and found that there was no violation of the rules. None whatsoever. But there was, and I kind of go over it. You can see what we can find here. Here we are, violence and physical harm. Ooh, you may not make specific threats of violence or wish for the serious physical harm, death, or disease of an individual or group of people. This includes, but is not limited to, threatening or promoting terrorism. So already we have a violation here, but let's go further. You may not engage in targeted harassment of someone or incite other people to do so. We consider abusive behavior an attempt to harass, intimidate, or silence someone else's voice. Oh, well, we got another one there. So according to Twitter, threatening Dana Lash's children with death isn't that big of a deal. It's fine. It doesn't violate any rules, despite the fact that there are rules posted that it clearly violates. It took me, all of 10 seconds to find these rules? And I want to remind you that they sent Chris an email that said, we have reviewed your report carefully. That means that someone at Twitter HQ, whose entire job it is to know and enforce the rules, looked at the tweet against Dana Lash's children and said, oh, that's fine. It wasn't. So Chris goes back in, as I say, and he basically says, I'm complaining in public about this. I'm highlighting this for everyone to see. What are you going to do? And Twitter finally got back to him. Thank you for contacting us about the issue. We have re-reviewed the account you reported and have locked it because we found it to be in violation of our Twitter rules. Really? Really? Was it in violation of your Twitter rules? How come it wasn't in violation of your Twitter rules the moment you saw it? How come it was only in violation of your Twitter rules the moment they started to go public with what you were doing? Suddenly then that's got to go. Oh, yeah, sorry. That absolutely is a threat against your children. We're going to lock this account. But do you see the pattern? Meghan McCain had a gun pointed at her in a picture, and it said, this is for you, America. They decided to do nothing about it. Dana Lash had a threat or had somebody try to inspire violence against her children. Twitter did nothing about it. Both of them, because it took Ben Domenech, who is the Federalist CEO. Ben Domenech had to start really going to town on Twitter in public before they would actually take down that picture of a gun pointed at Meghan McCain. Chris Lash and Dana Lash had to go public about the tweet talked about doing violence against her children before Twitter would do anything about it. And this is just a few stories. There was also a lot of doxing that happened to many different politicians on the right, Republicans. Twitter did nothing about it. Until like a few days later, they would sit there and sit on these tweets for a while. They would let them circulate for a while before they finally said, oh, yeah. Yeah, they're totally in violation. Meanwhile, you have conservatives and independents, libertarians, anyone who's basically to the right of Marx. The moment they say anything remotely disagreeable, it's a banning. It's a suspension. It's a demand to delete a tweet. It's unbelievable. But totally believable. I've stopped caring about my follower count because I cannot get any traction. Mine does the same thing. I just spin wheels. It goes up and it goes down. It goes up and it goes down. I've had friends suspended for quote tweet threats made against them, and the original tweet has been permitted to stay up. Shocked. Oh, okay. I want to show you guys something else. Here's what we were getting suspended for. 7 days. The dude who threatened Dana Lash's children, 48 hours. But how about 9 days? Yeah. I think he's just a walk again, and as it turns out, it actually did. Let me highlight this too. Twitter rules that we damn well know. 48 hours it apparently took for them to find those rules. Took us 10 seconds. Let's keep going, though. Alex Jones, suspended for a week for telling people to have their battle rifles ready just in case an attack happens. Twitter says that this is apparently a call for people to start shooting other people. Now, I don't care if you hate Alex Jones or you love Alex Jones or like me, you think he's just a walking, talking meme. I don't think that saying, hey, have your gun ready in case something happens is actually a violation of rules. Jones' account was suspended for 7 days. The dude who threatened Dana Lash's children, 48 hours. How unfair is that? Do you see, like, even in punishments, when it comes down to punishments, conservatives and right-wingers, again, people to the right of Marx, these people are getting an inordinate amount of punishment versus the people on the radical left. Not crazy people. How about we look at Kathleen McKinley, who tweeted out 2 tweets, one in 2017 and one in 2018, one involving her opinion that transgender people, people who are suffering from gender dysphoria, should not be in the military, and another one that said that sometimes Muslim extremists commit violence. So her tweet, for those of you who want to know what she got kicked for a while at least, she's back, obviously. She was forced to take these down. One more thing limiting the transgender troops, which I feel was normalizing a mental disorder, gender dysphoria, called distress now, which has no place in our military, certainly not our money for surgery. So back then, they were talking about funding the military, funding transition surgeries for soldiers. And there was a big uproar about that. Obviously, we did not want that. And they decided to punish her for that. And it's a fair assessment to make. Obviously, these people need help. They do not need our taxpayer dollars going to transition surgeries. There's no reason for that. Government shouldn't even be involved. Okay? Also, the one other thing, please do not pretend to know nothing about extreme Muslim beliefs that condone honor killings. Honor killings were happening. They were in the news quite a bit. For those of you who don't know, honor killings are when, let's say the daughter of a Muslim family goes out and does something that is considered a sin, like a big sin, and the father or the brother will go and kill this woman for dishonoring the family. They're called honor killings. That was something that was happening. It still happens, but it was kind of in the news. We were talking about it on Twitter. It was part of the public conversation. That is apparently something that we weren't allowed to talk about. They hit McKinley for it. Another one that said that sometimes Muslim extremists commit violence. Yeah, she got suspended for those. Okay, so I want to fast forward to this right here. This is a Twitter employee admitting that they are practicing bias. Twitter employees to actually admit it.
Oh, so it wasn't automated. It was a user and services person would deem it pro-Trump and take it down.
For example, if it was, they said, oh, this is pro-Trump, I don't want it because, it offends me, this, that. I say, I ban this whole thing, and it goes over, and you're like, oh, you know what? I don't like it too. You know what? Mo's right. Let's go. That's it. You're like, Mo's right. Let's carry on. What's next? Keep it coming.
Yeah, bring me another one to take down. Yeah.
Bro! What else do you need? Like, this little video I made in 2018 proved 100% that there was an insane amount of bias happening at Twitter. So much so that it became it stifled anybody for any reason. Didn't matter what. If it hurt their egos, that's all it took. Again, today, Babylon Bee. So you got Carpe Donkum, great example. The Babylon Bee, another example. You know what they did? They made an article that they tweeted out that said that Rachel Levine won Man of the Year. It's a joke that has a touch of reality to it because Rachel Levine is a man. Go ahead, YouTube. Strike me. Strike me down and I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. They tweeted that out. Twitter demanded that they take this down. But they shouldn't. They shouldn't. And they didn't. And good for them, I say. Because despite the fact that the modern idea, the fad, the socially acceptable description of biology biology is biology. You can't get away from it. Rachel Levine is a man who identifies as a woman. Okay? There's no way around that. It is what it is. Chappelle's comment that Twitter isn't a real place is correct, but that statement is only correct because the town square is controlled so tightly by leftists and the conversation became artificial as a result. There are far fewer right-leaning voices on the platform than there were a decade ago, and those of us that are still there are limited in terms of what we can say. So, Chappelle was right. Twitter isn't a real place. But how can it be a real place? It is artificially controlled. It is curated. The public square is a square where only a select few are really truly allowed to have their conversation or their opinions stated. Only a few. It's not real. It's not real conversation. It's not real debate. You're not allowed to really truly debate on the Twitter platform. They can end your entire account. You might have curated for a long time, gathered all these followers. Doesn't matter. You could be highly influential. Doesn't matter. If you say the wrong thing, Twitter will silence you. And the wrong thing doesn't necessarily have to be actual misinformation. It could just be an opinion that they don't like. Again, that Project Veritas clip showed you employees who were straight up casting people off the platform because of their pro-Trump positions. That's it. Kathleen McKinley was suspended for stating actual facts. Didn't matter. They didn't like what they said, and so they had to go. Alex Jones got kicked off for something he did off of Twitter. And I don't know if you are for Alex Jones or against Alex Jones. I don't care. It's not the point. They silenced him for something he did off of Twitter. They were looking for excuses is what I'm trying to get at here. They're looking for excuses. This is fun for them. Casting people off the platform and silencing and censoring people is fun for them. And because of that, there are far fewer right-minded individuals, any kind of independents who actually shared any kind of troubling, problematic opinions to Twitter brass. They're gone. There aren't as many of us now as there was back then. And because of that, we have a completely unbalanced platform where the town square is dominated by people who think radically to the left. So it's not real. Chappelle is right. It's not a real place. But I think it can be made real. I think we can actually have something happen that would actually make these conversations a bit more substantial. What's up, Delacroix? Rules for my darlings, not yours. A variation of rules for thee, but for me. Yeah. The Onion, meanwhile, never incurs lockdowns and is never fact-checked. Yeah, Brad has another good point here. They actually fact-check people. They fact-checked me. They've fact-checked Jeff. Y'all know Jeff. I read his articles all the time. They fact-checked the Babylon Bee, a satire website. Satire. They fact-checked Jeff over a joke that he made on Twitter. Not lying. What up, Jim? Unperson at the press of a button. Yeah. You can destroy or cripple entire careers by casting someone off of Twitter. It's not a real place right now, but it does have big consequences to not being able to get on it, which is really sad. And these people just kind of toss people off willy-nilly like it's no big deal. And for really bad reasons. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Musk can end the tyrannical hold on the conversation, and to be sure, that seems to be his aim. How or when he'll start to do this is still up in the air. But judging by Musk's love of doing things instead of complaining about them, the changes may happen rapidly. When they do, the town square will become more full than it's ever been, and what's more, even louder than before. No longer will the leftists on Twitter have their home field advantage. They can't rely on Twitter to silence their opposition for them, and conversations will have to take place on equal ground. Many of those who were kicked off the platform will come flooding back, and the left will be forced to engage with more voices who won't be silenced for speaking the truth now. For a time, the platform will become a war zone of ideas that I'm not sure the radical leftists that rule the platform can win. I've spoken before about a second renaissance. This is kind of my unrelenting optimism taking over. I've spoken before of a second renaissance that would need to occur in our society in order to get it back on track. I would begin when the people decide they'd have enough of the nonsense we see when we get online from activists of every kind. I said something would have to break eventually. It did with Musk's takeover of Twitter. Real fast, I kind of want to point this out. Carl Sagan, smart dude, he made a prophecy a while back. And I think it's very interesting because his prophecy kind of sort of came true a little bit. And it's scary. It's scary to think about. Didn't want to leave you hanging. What's up, John? He said, I have a foreboding. I'm going to try and do a Sagan impersonation. I have a foreboding in America in my children or grandchildren's time, when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when an awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues. When the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide, almost without noticing, back into superstition and darkness. The dumbing down of America is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content and the enormously influential media, the 30-second sound bites, now down to 10 seconds or less, lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a kind of celebration of ignorance. Your boy Sagan he really nailed it. He really nailed it, in my opinion, what our society would look like today. And I said at the time that this is kind of a dark moment. We live in the future and we have access to information that we never had access to before. We can talk to each other far more easily than we ever could. Communication has never been more wide open than it is today. And yet, we are not talking to each other. And yet, we are dumber than we've ever been. And it's because, in part, not all the way, in part, because we're not really allowed to disseminate information. People, the gatekeepers of information, control it like the border at Germany, baby. All right, it is the North Korean, South Korean border. You can't get through. Every now and again, something does, and it really kind of speaks to the real world below it. But man, Google controls the information. Hardcore. All right? They like to pretend like they're completely unbiased in their search results, but on multiple occasions we've seen that's false. Twitter, I just discussed a lot of that. Facebook. How many people have been banned in this chat from Facebook at some point, or suspended from Facebook at some point in time? I don't care for what. I have at one point. I think John has. The major platforms, YouTube does it all the time. YouTube did it to us. They took down one of our videos for merely suggesting a conversation about having a conversation about a certain subject, which I can't bring up. We have effectively, by silencing the conversation and open debate, made ourselves dumber as a society. Society has become stupid because we have been fed endless amounts of bullshit and we had no choice but to eat it up. Again, many people do not have the time to sit there and really probe deep into any given subject. They wake up in the morning, they go to work, they come home, they take care of their kids, they put them to bed, and with whatever free time they have left, they're probably wanting to relax. Maybe they're, watching TV, like they're watching Netflix, they're watching or playing video games, reading a book, just doing something, doing a puzzle. I don't know. But the last thing one would really want to do is take the time to exert their brains to really cut through the nonsense that they are being fed in order to get to the truth. So people are fed this absolute absurdity, and they have no choice but to accept it, especially since not accepting it could earn you the title of public pariah. Twitter, Facebook, Google, all these, they have made us dumber as a society because we cannot just allow free information to disseminate. It's so tightly controlled. I haven't used Facebook since 2006. I get on Facebook maybe twice a month at this point in time. I have so abandoned that platform. I used to have a relatively successful Facebook page for like my work, Red State, all the stuff before that, videos that I would make. And I was like, I'm just done here, man. This is a stupid platform. I'm afraid to post anything because if I post anything, they could just have me cast out, So I was like, I'm done. Facebook, in my opinion, became far more tight than Twitter ever was. But I spoke about this second renaissance that had to have happened, or has to happen at some point. It's inevitable, in my opinion. Because if you look around, I mean, we are living in, despite the fact that we're this technologically advanced and this, we've have access to, I have a box here that if I press certain buttons on my, or press the screen a few times in certain ways, a pizza will literally just show up at my door. We live in the future, but despite the fact that we live in the future, we are living in a dark time because we are literally embracing, as Carl Sagan said, stupidity. Despite the fact that we're so technologically advanced, we are stupid. So a second renaissance at some point in time has to come about because humans don't tend to like to live in the mud very long. We want to rise above it and we want to embrace something much better. We want to advance as a species. And I wrote, today we can look around and see that things are in a state of pure lunacy. Just logging onto a social media website opens up a world where the news is selling you blood and conflict amid a population that gobbles it up while signaling virtue after virtue and offering little to nothing in terms of real substance. We have regressed, as Sagan said, but something is going to break. People are going to get tired of the nonsense and noise and look for a better way. They'll refuse to slide back any further, turning instead to the wisdom of those who came before us in order to pave the road ahead with knowledge and a thirst for something better. The second renaissance may not happen today or even in the next few years, but I do believe it's on the horizon. Humanity has never been one to love wallowing in the mud for long, and soon society will reject those who wish to keep us there and move on to something greater. And I 110, this might just be my unrelenting optimism, but I 110% believe that a second renaissance is on the way. And I think that Elon Musk effectively taking over Twitter so that he can open it up for free speech and free debate is going to be a step in that direction. I do not think that it's going to be that way at first, because at first you're going to see a lot of people flood back to the platform. They're going to come back and it's going to be pure chaos for a while. You're going to have ideological wars break out. arguments, debates, blockings left and right, mutings left and right. There's going to be a lot of nasty words thrown back and forth at people, bitter people, people who are watching their power disappear and don't want it to disappear, and they're going to be very angry about that. They're going to start striking out. People are going to get doxxed. People are going to get libeled, slandered. It's going to be nasty. All right? But at some point in time, it's got to level out, because now that real information can flow freely on the platform, people are actually going to get a dose of something that they previously were not allowed to see. And Twitter is, for all intents and purposes, the town square. As Elon Musk said, the de facto town square. And once that information really starts to get out and we are able to weigh ideas for how good they are, instead of, curated from this radical leftist perspective where they could literally deny science and smile about it and say, yeah, we're unbiased and we're just obeying reality. Now with that being questioned and challenged and proof being put forward, at some point in time, people are going to catch on that the world that they have been living in has been nonsense, and they're going to thirst for more truth. In my honest opinion, I think that's going to happen. It's not going to happen at first. Again, it's going to be real rough for a minute, but I think it's going to level out. I really do. What's up, Doja? Bad I cannot English. You know what? That's okay. Welcome anyway. Thank you for showing up. I wanted to kind of point out something real fast. This is an interview or a conversation. Let's say a conversation, because I want to show you where Twitter's mind is at right now and what we need to walk back. And I wanted to highlight this because I think a lot of people do not understand just how convinced those people in radical leftist bubbles are of their own arguments. I think that what you are seeing right now are people who we see the truth. We see reality for what it is. You and I. Chat. I mean, if you're here, you're obviously smarter than most people. That's just the truth. Okay. You're also more handsome. I didn't know if you knew that. Just by watching this stream, you become 15% more handsome. Just saying. But anyway, this is... English is overrated. Come on. Just do your best. As long as you're friendly, we'll try to be friendly back. Hey, we're all friends here. Everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome, unlike some platforms. Joe Rogan and Tim Pool are having a conversation with Jack Dorsey and Twitter's trust and safety kind of head. And Tim Pool is trying to get her to understand that the reason or the excuses that she's using to ban people from the platform are based off of leftist opinion. This woman, for the life of her, cannot understand what Tim Pool is trying to say. You will see she is very confused. And she is so secure in her own thinking that she really she's not capable of seeing her opinion as an opinion. She really does think it's fact. I'm just going to go ahead and let this hang out.
Personally experienced a tremendous amount of harassment because I stood up when there was a woman who was a trans woman who was fighting biological females in mixed martial arts fights and destroying these women. And I was saying, you just watch this and tell me this doesn't look crazy to you.
Go ahead.
Well, my point is, you should be able to express yourself. If you say that you believe someone is biologically male, even though they identify as a female, that's a perspective.
Crippen, you have no proof of that.
I mean, this is someone's.
Y'all have no proof.
This is first of all, it's biologically correct. So we have a problem in that if your standards and your policies are not biologically accurate, then you're dealing with an ideological policy. And
so what Joe Rogan just pointed out is he just laid it out. if actual biology does not support your position, then what you are ruling from is an ideological one. You think this is your opinion, and yet you are basically kicking people off the platform for disagreeing with your opinion, despite the fact that what these people are saying is factually correct.
Just because, I mean, I don't want to target trans people. I don't want to harass them. I'll call.
And most people don't.
Want. I mean, if you want to change your name to a woman's name and identify as a woman, I'm 100% cool with that.
Same.
But by saying I don't think that you should be able to compete as a woman, this opens me up for harassment. And I never reported any of it. I just don't pay attention to it.
But going into like Meghan Murphy, for instance, right? You can call that targeted harassment if Meghan Murphy, who is, for those that don't know, she's a radical feminist who refuses to use the transgender pronouns. If she's in an argument with a trans person over whether or not they should be allowed in sports or in biologically female spaces, and she refuses to use their pronoun because of her ideology, you'll ban them.
Mm-hmm. Again, it depends on the context on the platform, and it's also not banned permanently. Like, you get warnings.
Well, she was banned permanently, but let's be clear about what happened.
But she was warned
because you explained it to me. What did she actually do?
My understanding, and I don't have the tweet by tweet the way that I did for the others, but my understanding is that she was warned multiple times for misgendering an individual that she was in an argument with, and this individual is actually bringing a lawsuit against her in Canada as well. So it is.
So you have an argument between two people.
Again,
and you have a rule that enforces only one side of the ideology, and you've banned only one of those people.
We have a rule that attempts to address what we have perceived to be instances of abuse and harassment.
She was saying
it's your ideology.
Right, but it is an ideology, right? If she's saying a man is never a woman, if that's what she's saying, and then biologically she's correct, we obviously have a debate here. This is not a clear cut. This is not something like you can say water is wet, this is dry. This is not like something you can prove. This is something where you have to acknowledge that there's an understanding that if someone is a trans person, we all agree to consider them a woman and to think of them as a woman, to talk to them and address them.
Yeah, exactly. Red just pointed that, and I wanted to make that point. So she is already at a point where she seems to... She's so sure of herself that this is starting to confuse her a little bit, and she's kind of withdrawing a little bit. She's like, wait, hang on. And Joe Rogan is trying to point out a very obvious fact here, and along with Tim Pool. Tim Pool is referring to a radical feminist who, like J.K. Rowling, is of the mind that women are women and men are men. And while transgenderism is a thing, and they want to consider themselves women, that's fine. They want to identify themselves that way, that's fine. But it does not make them women. And this feminist decided that she wasn't going to obey this transgendered fad at all, and cave to the demands that they be called something that they're not. She wasn't going to do it. And because of this, they got into a debate. She got into a debate with a transgender activist, and only one of them was kicked off the platform.
With their preferred name and their preferred pronouns. But biologically, this is not accurate. So we have a divide here. We have a divide between the conservative estimation of what's happening and then the definition that's the liberal definition of it.
I think that's right, Joe. And I think what I'm trying to say is that it's not that you can't have those viewpoints. It's that if you're taking those viewpoints and you're targeting them at a specific person in a way that reflects your intent to abuse and harass them.
But what if it's in the context of the conversation? What if she's saying that I don't think that trans women should be allowed in these female spaces to make decisions for women? And then this person's arguing and she says a woman is biologically female. You are never going to be a woman.
She responded with, men aren't women, though. And that was her first... In the series of events, that's what got her the suspension and the warning.
That was one of many tweets that was part of providing context, and that was actually the second actually. Strike is my understanding. But
why is that a strike?
Yeah, why is that a strike?
But again, like, it's the context of I don't have all the tweets in front of me. There were like 10 or 12 tweets going back and forth.
Mm-hmm. She doesn't
my understanding is that in that
context
of all of those, she was misgendering a particular person. Not that she was holding a belief or statement.
It was a public figure, though, wasn't it?
I don't know.
It was. So
I don't know.
you're having an individual who is debating a high-profile individual in her community, and she's expressing her ideology versus hers, and you have opted to ban one of those ideologies.
And it's
We
within
have-
the context of this conversation.
Yeah.
This is what is being debated, whether or not someone is in fact a woman when they were born a male.
I understand that this is controversial. I do.
Especially to a radical feminist, someone who
I understand why people would not agree with the rule. But that being said, it is a rule on our platform. And once you're warned about
Why?
the rule, to repeatedly post the same content is also going to be a violation of our rules.
Right, but the rule, this seems like a good example of an ideologically based rule. If she's saying that a man is never a woman, though, that is not in that context harassment. That is a very specific opinion that she has that happens to be biologically accurate. Now, I don't agree with targeting harassment on anybody.
Exactly.
And I targeted harassment on trans people or straight people or whatever. I don't agree with it. I don't think you should do it. It's not something I want to do. But in this context, what she's saying is not just her expression, but it's accurate.
I think an important point is, if I tweeted to you, Joe,
Real fast before he gets into that, this is a very good point that Twitter brass either is ignoring or missing, and I think they're just missing it, to be honest with you. And this is an overall point I want to get to. I think many of the people on the left do not understand their own position. I think that they have arrived at it because their bubble is so tight that they do not understand that their opinion is just opinion, that their ideological positioning is just ideological positioning, not just a standard fact. And because of that, they do not understand that when they ban people off a platform for even mere conversation or debate, open and in good faith debate, that they're doing so off of a draconian position of I'm right, you're wrong, and there's no debate about it. This woman is not understanding. She can't even seem to get there. That her position on transgendered people is one of mere opinion. And they are making, as Joe and Tim Pool are trying to point out, they are making policy decisions based off of their opinion, not any kind of fact or principle of open debate. If being misgendered is the worst thing that could happen to such a person, they're having a pretty good day. Yeah, no joke. She doesn't have the tweets in front of her, but she knows the facts of the case. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? She's using I don't know not because she doesn't know or remember, but as a defense mechanism to fight against cognitive dissonance. And you bring up a really good word to use here. This is cognitive dissonance. 100%. Red nailed it. She is trying to keep her worldview intact as Tim Pool and Joe Rogan disassemble it.
Joe, you are not a hamster. That's clearly not a violation of the rules. However,
But if I identify as a hamster.
Well, no, it wouldn't be clear, because I know people who have specifically begun using insults of animals to avoid getting kicked off the platform for breaking the rules. Certain individuals who have been suspended now use certain small woodland creatures in place of slurs, so they're not really insulting you, and it's fine. But there are people who consider themselves trans species. Now, I'm not trying to belittle the trans community by no means. I'm just trying to point out that you have a specific rule for one set of people, and there are people who have general body dysphoria. You don't have rules on that. There are people who have actually amputated their own arms. You don't have rules on that. You have a very specific rule set. And more importantly, in the context of a targeted conversation, I can say a whole bunch of things that would never be considered a rule break, but that one is, which is ideologically driven.
She takes a picture, and in that picture is this ET.
Weird.
Yeah. Thank you for the feedback. I mean, we're again always
Thank you
learning
for the feedback.
trying to understand different people's perspectives. And all I'll say is that our intent is not to police ideology. Our intent is to police behaviors that we view as abusive and harassment. And I hear your point of view, and it's something that I'll definitely discuss with my team.
And she cannot have that fact that was just laid out to her stated any more clearly. You are basing it off of your own feelings. You're making policy and punishing people based off of your own feelings. She doesn't have a comeback for it. Thank you for your input. I'm going to consider it and bring it back to my team. She has no answer for it. She has nothing. This woman is still in charge over at Twitter. Just so you guys know where we are. Just so you understand how bad Twitter is right now and how much Elon Musk needs to set fire to some of it, this is what we're dealing with right here. This woman cannot fathom that she's wrong. And that she's only basing everything off of her opinion or the opinion of her bubble. Over the ideological positioning of her bubble. She is punishing people wrongly for even just good faith debate because of her ideological position. She is silencing and censoring people for bad reasons, in bad faith. This woman is still in charge there. Doja, do the subscribe, buddy. Give us a subscription. Twitter has become a classic example of what used to be Usenet/FidoNet flame war admin myopia gone weird. It's a sign of administrative inbreeding and precedes platform collapse. Those are a lot of $10 college words, Dennis. But I'm picking up what you're putting down. So what Dennis is trying to say is this is effectively Twitter resorting to absolute nonsense in order to keep their ideology afloat. And because of that, it's going to end up eating itself. Thank you for the oh, did you subscribe and it didn't go off? Man, okay. I apologize for that. Apparently the alert box is, once again, it's busted. I don't know why it's doing that. I apologize, Doja. I'll have to look into it. Every now and again, the alert box just likes to not function, and I don't know why. Thank you for that feedback. She behaves like their in-house bot program. She just blew them off with copy HR speak. Yep. Look at her body language. She's not comfortable giving the answer she's giving. She's definitely not. Because she was just confronted with an idea that I don't think that she's ever actually considered. She truly believes that what she was doing was the right thing. And it's not. She just got it shoved in her face. Did you just call her a woman? Yeah, Doja, I'm sorry. I don't know why the alert box isn't working. If you have subscribed, I appreciate the subscription, man. Thank you.
Even in this case, it wasn't just going against this particular rule, but also things that were more ban evasive as well, including taking a screenshot of the original tweet, reposting it, which is against our terms of service.
Well, that sounds like
so it's more
protest.
the actions.
It sounded like a protest against your rule.
But
I understand you could ban them for it.
But people can protest any of our rules. We can't like let them do that.
No.
They can protest
agree.
any of them.
I'm not
if they disagree.
I understand what you're saying, but I just want to make sure I point out she was clearly doing it as an effort to push back on what she viewed as an ideologically driven rule.
Well, the problem is this is a real debate in the LGBT community.
I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. But what they're going to get into is, so Joe Rogan is effectively stating the obvious. Men competing in women's sports is wrong because men have an advantage. All right? You're not allowed, or weren't at that moment at least, allowed to talk about that. Because a radical feminist, a high-profile radical feminist, was talking about it. And they banned her off the platform for it. This is a conversation that needs to be had. It just is. And I agree with Tim Pool and Joe Rogan. I mean no animus towards the transgender community. None. Again, I've met a few of them in person, and every single one of them was lovely. I have nothing against them. It is mainly the activists that I actually cannot stand, and these activists are what are in control right now of our public conversation. And because they're in control of our public conversation, we can't have basic conversations about, transgenderism, men competing in women's sports, the effects of transgender surgeries on people, the increasing amount of people who have had transition surgeries and want to go back. We're not allowed to talk about it, actually. Bath Spa University This was back in... Let me see if I can't find it here. I think maybe this BBC article has it. Or the Guardian article. University turned down politically incorrect transgender research. This is back in 2017. A scientist saw a increase in the amount of people. He is friends with a surgeon who does these transgender surgery, transition surgeries. Friends with the guy, noticed that there has been a radical uptick, and I mean radical uptick, in the amount of people who had transition surgeries and wanted to revert back to what they were before. So he goes to Bath Spa University and he's like, I want to do some research about this. I think that there is a very serious problem that is happening. Some mental illness, some serious regret that is causing a lot of depression. Something is happening here and I want to study it. They wouldn't let him study it. They did it first. They were about to grant him his money for his research, and then they had him go up into the ethics board, and they said, no, we can't do this. And when asked why, they literally said it was because they were afraid of the transgender activist community coming after them and the PR nightmare it would cause. Literal science was not being practiced or researched because they were afraid of what would happen. And it's something to really consider and think about, man. You have these people out here who have so much information that they could talk about, that we could understand and research. But we can't talk about it. What if we could? What if what Elon Musk does is come in and make Twitter a place where free conversation and the free dispersal of information can happen? What happens to these groups that have so far been made into sacred cows? What happens if their sacred cow status is completely revoked on one of the biggest major platforms? It is going to be bedlam for a while. But I think it's going to be healthy for us overall. Sometimes in order to get back to good, you have to fight. Debate, fights, and arguments have to occur. And in my honest opinion, this is going to be better for everybody. If Elon Musk does what I think he's going to do, which is completely make Twitter, he's going to revamp Twitter and make it so that you can't. This woman right here. This woman right here can't just suddenly have free reign over the conversation. And she can no longer dictate the terms of the conversation based off of her ideological position. Because her ideological position is nonsense. It's draconian, it's unfactual, it's unscientific, it's unbiological. Elon Musk is right. In order for a society to function correctly, it has to have free and open debate and conversation. In order for us to move forward as a society, we need to be able to share ideas. And the ideas that we share can be weighed, measured, and if they're found wanting, they're tossed out. If not, they rise to the top. And isn't that kind of what happened with the first Renaissance? Ideas were discussed and the best ones rose to the top. I hope for a second Renaissance. I really, 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 really do. And I think that maybe it's still a ways off. I don't know. Maybe. But I also think that this is a really great first step. A great first step is free speech, opening up the conversation so that we can openly discuss these ideas that people like the Twitter Safety Council head shut down. Guys, that's going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Follow me at @TheBrandonMorse if you're not already on Twitter, because it's going to get it's going to be a much better platform from here on out, apparently. Hit subscribe on the Red State YouTube if you haven't already. Give this stream a like if you haven't already done that too. Sign up for the VIP program on redstate.com. You're going to get a lot more than just what you see on the front page. Use promo code MORSE, M-R-S-E, on sign up for a discount. You're going to be getting some really great stuff. But thank you guys so much for this conversation. And a big thanks to Elon Musk. Praise be his name. All right. Y'all have a good rest of your week. Slay the Monday. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Y'all have a good day. Bye.